Hello, hello. My name is Jones, and today we're going to look at anthrax as one of those zoonotic infections. Okay, and by zoonotic infection, we mean diseases that may be transmitted from animals to humans. So, anthrax is a zoonotic disease. Okay, it is being passed from animals to human beings. Okay, the causative of organism is bacterium anthracis. Okay, that is the causative organism, and it is spore forming. So this bacterium from the animals may find its way to affect human beings. So that is what we call zoonosis, infection affecting animals and has possibilities of affecting humans. Okay, so the objectives of this lesson is to give the definition of anthrax, to look at the pathogenesis of anthrax, we look at the types of anthrax, we look at the causative organisms and also the characteristics of anthrax. We look at the clinical manifestation of anthrax, the treatment of anthrax, and also lastly the prevention and control of anthrax. Okay, so this is what we are going to look at, and then we'll still, in our introduction, look at the history or brief history of anthrax. So, in looking at the brief history of anthrax, the term anthrax originates from the Greek word anthrakis or anthracos, which simply means black or coal. This is so because of the escalation, okay, within the rash, the black spots that is seen at the middle of the rash, okay, anthrax rash. Okay, so that is the characteristic sign of the rash. We see the black spot, okay, around the rash or the pustule within the anthrax infection. Okay, so anthrax is also known by other names like Souters disease or malignant pustule. In exactly 1877, Robert Koch grew the organism in a pure culture and demonstrated its ability to form endospores and also produced experimental anthrax by injecting it in animals. So the best bacterial vaccine for anthrax was actually prepared by Sir Royce Pasteur. Okay, so that is the brief history that we can talk about anthrax. Okay, the works of these scientists have demonstrated that anthrax, when injected in animals, may cause infection. Okay, as an isolated protein may cause infection. The works of these scientists have also helped in the development of the vaccine, as noted by the works of Sir Louis Pasteur. So Sir Louis Pasteur, okay, was the person that the first uh, person to discover or to come up with a vaccine for anthrax. So he prepared this vaccine, and the vaccine is used in order to prevent infection spread. Okay, it's more of a prophylaxis. Okay, so now, according to our objectives there, we need to define anthrax. So, by definition, anthrax is an infectious zoonotic disease that is caused by a spore forming gram positive rod shaped anthracis bacterium, which mainly affects animals and can be transmitted to humans via cross contact. Okay, so in defining anthrax within our definition here, we're looking at it as an infectious zoonotic infection because we are saying it's an infection that can be transmitted from animals to human beings. And then within our definition, then we look at the characteristics of the bacteria that causes anthrax. So we are saying It is a gram positive. Okay, this gram negative, gram positive. So it is a spore forming gram positive bacterium. It is rod shaped bacteria. Okay, that is the Anthracis bacterium, and mainly affects animals. But in some instances, this can be transmitted to humans via close contact. Okay, so anthrax is a zoonotic disease caused by the spore-producing bacterium Bacillus anthracis. So the causative organism of anthrax is a bacilli and bacilli anthracis. Okay, the bacterium Bacillus anthracis. Bacillus anthracis bacteria spores are so born. They are most of the time found on the soil where they form spores. Okay, Bacillus anthracis bacterium spores are so born, meaning they are found in soil. Of course, it's from the excrement of these animals, but they find themselves within the soil. Because of their long lifespan, spores are present globally and remain at burial sites of animals that have been killed by anthrax for many decades. Okay, so people can get anthrax if they were exposed to these spores through inhalation, okay, through direct or indirect contact or other means that will deliver the infections to these humans through open skin, okay, from flies and the likes. Okay, so people can get anthrax if they're exposed to these anthrax spores. A spore is a dormant form of a bacterium. Okay, so let us now look at the pathogenesis of anthrax. In looking at the pathogenesis of anthrax, we are going to break this down into seven stages. Okay, so there are different ways in which anthrax may affect human beings. It can be through the skin, through the GIT, or through inhalation. So, through the skin, if there's an opening, then you're going to have a different type of anthrax, which is known as cutaneous anthrax. If you get it through the gastrointestinal tract, then you're going to have gastrointestinal anthrax. If you get it through inhalation, then you're going to have inhalation anthrax. So, cutaneous anthrax, the spores are going to gain access by are going to get access for the, let's say, the subepidermal structure or the skin in the host through abrasions of the skin, followed by uptake via resident macrophages. Macrophages here are white blood cells that may try to defend you from the infection. So there will be a localized reaction because of the presence of these spores. So if one has an abrasion, that now becomes a portal of entry for the infection. Okay, port of entry for the infection through the cutaneous route. Then we have gastrointestinal gastrointestinal anthrax. Here for gastrointestinal, when explaining the pathogenesis of anthrax, we are saying spores uptake by phagocytes occurs after ingestion. Ingestion, that is through the mouth, ingestion of contaminated food. Okay, then the germination will follow soon after entry in the host immune cells. So after ingestion, the gastrointestinal system has got a network of lymph nodes or lymphatic system, okay, that have white blood cells that try to fight infection. So there will be contamination and there will be a local reaction within the GIT, which will lead to manifestation of infection with anthrax. Then there is inhalational. anthrax. In explaining the inhalational anthrax here, the alveolar macrophages will take up inhaled spores from the alveoli and respiratory tracts. Then a small fraction of spores will evade or cause destruction within the within the respiratory tracts. Then there will be a phagolyson reaction. Okay, there will be a phagolyson reaction to try to destroy the invading spores. This will cause development of lung regions. Okay, that that will come because of inhalational anthrax. So these lesions will come because of local reaction within the alveoli to try and defeat the invading endospores. Then stage 7 here, or let's say stage from stage 3, depending on the types of anthrax there. Stage 4 here we are saying in each case, okay, in each case, that is cutaneous, gastrointestinal, or inhalation. The spore germination into will germinate into mature bacilli anthracis and take and will take place within the macrophages and the primary site of infection. So at the site of port of entry, we have macrophages reaction, okay, at this site of infection, and this will cause the germination of the infection. Later upon, the, the local lymph nodes or the lymph nodes within that lineage are going to be inflamed in trying to suppress the spread of anthrax to other areas. So from the regions of the local area that has been affected, then the nearby lymph nodes are going to swell as they try to fight the infection. Then stage 5, after this pause, okay, uptake into the that is by the phagocyte here, the phagolysomes, by the tissue and macrophages, the bacilli are transported via lymph channels to local and regional lymph nodes. So regional lymph nodes, if local lymph nodes fail to fight the infection, will also be affected. Okay, so this is via the lymphatic channel. Okay, then final, that is a six, there is final germination that take place in the lymph nodes, draining in the primary site of infection through an unclear mechanism. Okay, and then there will be mature bacilli that will escape from these macrophages, okay, and then it will affect other organs apart from the primary site that was affected. The bacilli will spread them through the circulatory system, that is, through the blood, causing septicemia or infection within the blood and also infection of other organs. Okay, to simplify the pathogenesis, we are saying from local infection of, let's say, the skin, from local infection of the gastrointestinal tract, local infection of through inhalation, there will be a macrophages or white blood cell reaction. Okay, and the swelling of lymph nodes, the local lymph nodes. If the local lymph nodes fails to fight the infection, then regional lymph nodes are going to swell. Then there'll be germination within these lymph nodes, okay, local lymph nodes, okay, and the regional lymph nodes. There will be germination of the spores. So after germination of these spores, and if the infection is not handled within the lymphatic system, which is part of the defense mechanism, the infection now can spread from the lymph nodes to affect the blood, causing septicemia. Okay, and the infection now can be carried by blood to affect other organs. Okay, so let us now look at the characteristics of anthracis. In our definition of anthrax, we gave out the characteristics of bacterium anthracis. So we said it is a gram-positive bacterium. It is rod-shaped. Okay, it is rod-shaped, and these are the rods that we are looking at. The rod shape. Okay, so the road shape here, these are the road shape. This is a bacterium anthracis. Okay, so it is spore forming, meaning it can lie dormant for some time, okay, until favorable conditions arise for the bacterium now to infect or multiply or to start to thrive. Okay, it uses obligates aerobics. Okay, obligates oxygen. Okay, so obligate aerobic oxygen. Obligate able to survive. Okay, facultative intracellular. Okay, that is the bacteria. Here, facultative, and then it's non-mortal. Then the spores are oval and centrally located, and they are encapsulated, making it possible for them to form spores. You need to know that there are bacteria that are anaerobic or aerobic. So this anthrax, okay, can use obligate aerobics. Okay, then researchers have also discovered that three types of proteins are created by anthrax bacteria, and these are protective antigens, okay, which is abbreviated as PA, and then there's edema factor, abbreviated as EF, and then there's also the retho factor, okay, the retho factor. So there's protective antigen, edema factor, and retho factor. So these proteins are harmless individually, but together they can be deadly. So these are the same proteins that will now cause this bacterium to cause formation of toxins. So when you talk of the edema factor in combination with the protective antigen, they are going to form the edema toxin. And then when you talk of the lethal factor combining with protective antigen, okay, they are going to form the toxin. Okay, so you can see that you can see that the consecutive, okay, in factors, that is the second one, which is the edema factor or lethal factors, they have to combine with the protective antigen for them to produce the toxins. So it's either the edema factor combining the protective antigen to form the edema toxins. Okay, so the origin now becomes the factor, okay, of the toxins. So that's why you're calling them the edema toxins. Then, if it is the lethal factor that combines with the protective antigen, then that's when we have the toxins. So that is how you identify these toxins. Okay, so now let us look at the stages of anthrax infection. The stages of anthrax infection, we have the encounter stage, that is organism and the body surface. Then we have the adhesion, okay, the adhesion stage, that is the generalized and receptor specific stage. Then we have the initial multiplication. Okay, initial multiplication happening at the local area that has been infected, and with germination, this will lead to inversion. Okay, after inversion, then lymphatic stage. Lymphatic stage is simply the invasion of the lymphatic channels by after germination of the bacterium anthracis. Then there is generalized infection. Generalized infection is when the infection comes out of the lymphatic system and affects the blood. When it affects blood, it can affect other organs, the meninges, okay, the liver, the lungs, and the likes. So that is the generalized infection. So these are some of the stages, or these are the stages of anthrax infection. The encounter stage, when you're coming in contact, the adhesions, okay, stage when these infection find receptors where they have been received. Then there's initial multiplication of the spores, then germination, okay, which is will be the invasion of the local area, then the lymphatic stage, when we have the local lymphatic system or lymph nodes getting swollen as it tries to fight the infection. If they become overpowered, then the infection affects the blood, then we are going to have generalized infection or metastasis. Okay, so with the stages of anthrax infection explained, which can help you also explain the pathophysiology of wound infection or the pathogenesis of the infection. Then we can look at the human transmission. Okay, depending on the type, we can look at this human transmission. Let's say when you're saying in human transmission, we have direct transmission, we have airborne transmission, and we have indirect transmission. So, under direct transmission, here we can look at the cutaneous type of anthrax. So the cutaneous type of anthrax will come because of contact with infected tissue, who hide or soil. So here, when I talk about the cycle, I can still explain more on what is happening during the direct transmission. But here, you have the human being that comes in contact with the meat, okay, that is infected with anthrax, with the who that is infected with anthrax because of animal excreta that is been infected with anthrax. So as they collect who, people with bit of cut on their skin can get infection. And also cutaneous, the dust, okay, from excretors of animals, okay, they may land on the skin that has got some scars, and then the infection will find its way. Then the other also interesting part about cutaneous, which is direct transmission, is the issue of vectors, okay, biting from flies. Here are flies that have been feeding on this cow or animal, okay, that can be a host of the infection. So the flies will feed on the wound, on the scar, the rash, okay, from anthrax. After feeding on that, then it comes in contact with the human being, okay, who has got a sore and starts to feed on that sore. It can introduce the anthrax. Okay, so that is on the cutaneous when talking about human transmission. Then we have inhalation, transmission through inhalation or airborne. So inhalation of air contaminated with spores, as I have explained, is through dust. Okay, it, is through dust, excreta from animals. Okay, it's been deposited on the ground, and then that excreta is going to be carried within the dust. Okay, if it's carried within the dust, then human beings inhale. Then there's tanning hides and processing wool or bone. Here, these people can still get inhalation, okay, during the processing of tanning hide or processing wool. Then there's gastrointestinal. Here in gastrointestinal, we are looking at indirect transmission. So if you don't cook the meat, you don't prepare the meat properly of an infected animal, you may end up getting anthrax. There are also other human transmissions that we need to look at. Internaries or people that work in tanneries here can are susceptible or are at high risk of getting anthrax. People that work in textile mills are also susceptible. Whose sorters are susceptible or may get may easily get the infection. Bone processors may get the infection. People that work in slaughterhouses of these animals that have been infected may also get the infection. And those that work with these samples, okay, that are contaminated, like laboratory workers, may also get the infection. Okay, so let us now also, we have appreciated animal transmission or human transmission. We can now look at animal transmission. The bacteria is present in hemorrhagic exudate from the mouth of an animal, the nose, or the anus. Okay, the animal transmission here we can also have through oxygen exposure. The spore forms, the soil contamination will make the animals to get the infection. Then ingestion, especially among herbivores and carnivores, as they feed from the ground there that has got spores, the infection may spread to the animal. In inhalation, animals will inhale spores from soil that is contaminated or the dust that is contaminated. Animals may also get the infection mechanically through insect bites. Okay, so to understand what we have just from talking about the animal transmission and the human transmission, there is also an anthrax cycle. Okay, so this anthrax cycle will help us to understand better on how the infection can spread. So there is the cutaneous type of anthrax, and we can appreciate how this is going to affect human beings, or more likely to be transmitted in human beings. Okay, then we have also GIT, and we also have inhalation. Okay, so let me start with the cutaneous infection. Okay, so here the primary hosts of the infection are animals. So if the animals here they are infected, okay, they're infected and they have some sores, the flies that come to feed on this, as they become contact in human beings that have got some scars or opening, they will introduce the infection, and then this human being may develop anthrax. Okay, that is how anthrax can be spread. Now, if this, for instance, this human being has got a skin opening and comes direct in contact with animals, those that are heading animals, the infection can be introduced in the skin or the epidermis of the skin, and then this person can be infected. So that is how infection can spread through them, the cutaneous route. Okay, because of flies or this human being directly coming in contact with these animals. These animals, as we have said, in animal spread, they might have eaten from grass, okay, and so there you see has got spores of anthrax. Okay, so with that part mentioned, then we can look at gastrointestinal anthrax. Gastrointestinal anthrax here, one is going to get the infection through ingestion of animal products that are infected with the infection. When you ingest animal products not properly cooked, you may develop gastrointestinal anthrax. Then coming to inhalational, here we have excretors, okay, excrement from animals. Okay, so here dust from this is going to be inhaled, okay, through the human being's respiratory tract, and this will cause the person to develop anthrax. Though we have talked about cutaneous here, under inhalation from this dust, if it is infected and there's an open skin there, this same dust may introduce on an open skin of the human being anthrax. So that is the explanation which is here, to look at these excretors and then the dust coming, rising, and causing anthrax here. Okay, so these animals will continue to excrete infected feces. Okay, as we kill them, as we bury them. Okay, not burying them in areas where we can also put some kind of chemicals so that you kill the spores, then the soil in this area is going to be contaminated. Okay, so that is within the anthrax cycle. This is what I can explain. Okay, this is what I can explain within the cycle. Okay, So from there, let us look at the expansion of the cycle. So the reservoirs, the humans here as the reservoirs, animals, these are primarily that might have the infection here are primarily horses, cattle, sheep, or pigs. Then in the soil here as reservoir, we are saying because of the excrement of burying contaminated animals with anthrax, so it becomes one of those reservoirs. Okay, so this is what we can add or talk about the life of the anthrax cycle. The reservoirs are humans, the reservoirs are animals. Type of animals, cattle, most common. Okay, then horses, sheep, and pigs. Then it's all animals here, most of them that we consume. Okay, then the soil, if you have a breakout of anthrax, okay, so the excrement from these animals needs to be properly disposed so that you do not spread the infection. Okay, so in the explanation of the anthrax cycle, we have also indirectly talked about the types of anthrax. So the first type of anthrax is cutaneous. Cutaneous to do with the skin. Cutaneous, okay, to do with the skin. Cutaneous anthrax. So it is a form typically caused when Bacillus anthracis spores enter the cuts of the skin. You see that when you talk about cutaneous anthrax, they after exposure, 2 to 3 days, when you start seeing the anthrax cells formation. That is an incubation period of within the incubation period of 2 to 3 days. Cutaneous anthrax is found commonly when humans handle infected animals or animal products without proper use of uh, uh, personal protective equipment. Okay, personal protective equipment helps to reduce spread of infections to humans. Then cutaneous anthrax is rarely fatal if treated because the infection area is limited to the skin, preventing the lethal factor, the edema factor, and the protective antigen from entering and destroying vital organs. You remember these factors that we talked about that will facilitate or lead to formation of toxins. Okay, so this is an example of cutaneous anthrax with a dark spot or escalation scar at the middle. So that is a person suffering from anthrax, and a that is an anthrax lesion. Okay, so there are stages that you should appreciate that these scars will appear. First, it starts as a dark spot. That is on the first or second day, you see a dark spot. On the third or fourth day, this dark spot becomes a little bit darker with some kind of blisters around this same dark spot. Then later, okay, that is by fifth day or so, you see that the blisters grow and then the dark spot kind of shrinks. So these are the stages here that you can see of the anthrax, cutaneous anthrax stages. Cutaneous anthrax as clinical manifestation of a raised, itchy, bumpy, resembling an insect bite, and quickly develops in a painless sore with a black center. So these are clinical manifestation of this is a clinical manifestation of anthrax. The other one is swelling in the sore and nearby lymph nodes. So depending on the part that has been affected, you find that local lymph nodes will be affected and they'll be swollen, then followed by regional lymph nodes. So the first in cutaneous, we see the bumpy resembling an insect bite or bumpy rash or wound resembling an insect bite. It's a painless sore with a black center. So we have explained the stages, okay, of cutaneous anthrax. So stage one is popular stage. Okay, popular stage. So in popular stage there, then we have stage two, the vascular stage. Here, blisters forming around, oftenly becoming hemorrhagic. Popular stage here, we said what we first see is that there is a raised, itchy, bumpy resembling. So that is known as a papu. So there is a papu stage. Then stage two, there is vascular stage. Vascular stage, we have these vesicles, the blisters that form around this papu, that around this black inflammation. Then stage three is a scar formation or esca stage. This will appear 2 to 6 days after the hemorrhagic vesicles, and it will dry to become a depressed black scrub that is known as malignant pustule. So it's the stages is in cutaneous anthrax. We have the papu, vascular, ulcer stage, then as escalation. So that is how you should remember the stages in anthrax. Papu, the dark spot, vesicles around the dark spot. Then there's the ulcer that forms. After the ulcer has formed, then there's escalation or scar formation. Okay, scar formation. So the ulcer that is the malignant pustule which is formed. From there, let us now appreciate gastrointestinal anthrax as the second type of anthrax. Gastrointestinal anthrax infection in human is mostly caused by consuming anthrax infected meat. Lesions have been found in the intestine's mouth, okay, that is in the intestine, mouth, and also throat. And when we talk about these lesions have been found in these areas like intestine, mouth, and throat, it also highlights the different types of anthrax within the GIT that we have. So we have gastrointestinal anthrax, but we have also subtypes in gastrointestinal anthrax. So after the bacteria invades the GIT, it spreads through the bloodstream, and produces more toxins. So there are two forms of GIT anthrax, that is oropharyngeal and abdominal anthrax. Abdominal anthrax is more common than the oropharyngeal. Gastrointestinal anthrax has clinical manifestation of fever and chills, swelling of the neck, sore throat, hoarseness of the voice, nausea and bloody vomiting. Okay, then there is also bloody diarrhea, swelling of the abdomen, and also abdominal discomfort. Here we are looking at oropharyngeal anthrax diagram. Okay, the GIT anthrax has the incubation of 2 to 5 days. Remember, we started with cutaneous, which has incubation period of 2 to 3 days, but the GIT has 2 to 5 days incubation period. So those are anthrax. Those are cells that are appearing because of anthrax infection or because of GIT anthrax. Then there is the third type of anthrax, which is inhalational anthrax. Anthrax is a common type of anthrax that is caused by breathing uh, anthrax infected um, air. Okay, so the spores are within the dust that one inhales. Terrorists um, have used inhalation anthrax, okay, as a weapon, as a bio weapon, okay, to terrorize some areas. So inhalation anthrax is also known as pulmonary anthrax or pneumonic anthrax or respiratory anthrax. This type of anthrax, okay, may present with symptoms like difficulties in breathing, fever, sore throats, chest tightness, cough, and inhalation of anthrax has an incubation period of 1 to 7 days. Okay, so that is a diagram that is trying to more like add emphasis to what inhalation anthrax is. So anthrax spores are inhaled through the nose. When they are inhaled through the nose, these anthrax spores will enter the lungs and travel to the alveolar spaces. From the alveolar spaces, here the spores are going to affect the lymphatic system of the the supply of the lungs or the alveoli, and this will lead to germination of the infection within the lymphatic system. Okay, from the germination of infection, here the can also release toxin, edema factor combining with the protein antigen, or the lethal factor combined with the pathogen antigen. So releasing either edema toxins or lethal toxins. Okay, it is also important to note that apart from the three main types of anthrax that we have talked about, cutaneous, gastrointestinal, and inhalational, there are also other types of anthrax. Septicemia anthrax is when internal organs become darkly colored with widespread petechiae and hemorrhage. Most cases of septicemia anthrax occur following inhalational anthrax. Massive amount of retrotoxin will result in shock and death. Retrotoxins, that is when lethal factor combined with the protein antigen. Okay, so septicemia anthrax, it is coming because the anthrax overpowered the lymphatic system and it's now emia, it's in the blood. So it will now cause multiple organ failure. Then there's anthrax meningitis. When anthrax now affects the meninges from bacteremia, that is the presence of the bacteria within the blood. Okay, there will be a hematogenous that is spread through the blood to the central nervous system, bringing about anthrax meningitis. Okay, so these are more of like complications, but we will still talk about complications. So septicemia anthrax, that is multiple organs are affected, and the lethal toxins will cause shock then death. Okay, the other type of anthrax that we need to appreciate is injection anthrax amongst drug users is one of those common diseases. So heroin injectable drug users are likely to suffer from this. So those are the types of anthrax that we have discussed within this lesson. Let us now look at prevention and control of anthrax. If we have understood the pathogenesis of the infection, we have understood from also other information about anthrax, then we'll have no problem to prevent anthrax. So, prevention and control of anthrax starts with the disposal of animals and carcasses by either burning or deep burial of these animals with the lime pits. Lime pits is so that they are decontaminated so that we kill the anthrax spores. So the animals have to be burnt so that you kill the infection, or you bury them deep and also add some lime pits or some add some lime within the pits so that you kill the bacteria. So that is one prevention measure of anthrax. Then decontamination of animal products. The animal products, okay, that are meant to be used by other people, human beings, okay, animal products, milk, okay, and other products that will come from these animals, of course, meant for consumption, should be decontaminated. Then there's protective clothing. One wearing protective clothing when handling highly potentially infected animals. So here we are encouraging uh, wearing of personal protective equipment when ever working in areas where animals are potentially infected. We also indicated about possible immunization, especially for the high risk group, people that work in slaughterhouses, okay, people that hate animals. So active immunization of domestic animals with live attenuated vaccines, okay, live attenuated vaccine, and persons with high occupation risk also being vaccinated. Okay, so if possible, you can avoid working with raw animals, hides, fur, or skin, especially for goats, sheep, and cow. Okay, then, if not possible that you cannot avoid this, maybe you work in area where you process fur for clothing and the likes, you can sterilize this. Can sterilize the wool. Okay, sterilize the animal products like skin for making shoes. You need to sterilize this. Okay, so and also other fields of animal origin like cow to the processing, you need to ensure that they are sterilized. It is also important to avoid inhalation, okay, by controlling dust and also having properly ventilated office spaces. If you work in industries where you handle raw animal meats or where you handle animals that potentially may be infected. Okay, so this now takes us to complications of anthrax. Complications include septicemia. Septicemia is when there is bacteremia. Septicemia is when the infection now affects the blood, and when it affects the blood, multiple organs are likely to be infected. So septicemia. We discussed septicemia also as a type of anthrax. Then there can be hemorrhagic meningitis. Hemorrhagic meningitis can be seen in the anthrax meningitis. Okay, so there will be bleeding from meninges. Then there can also be acute gastroenteritis. This will lead to, let's say, some blood also being seen in stool. So acute gastroenteritis, that is inflammation of gastrointestinal tract. Intestinal obstruction because of inflammation, the peristalsis is affected, so you see intestinal obstruction come in. Intestinal lesion may become edematous, okay, leading to uh, leading to intestinal lesion may become edematous, affecting affecting peristalsis, leading to constipation. Then there's also this complication known as acute respiratory distress syndrome. Okay, you may end up having acute respiratory distress because of compromised oxygen exchange. The alveoli is being affected. Okay, so in septicemia, there is septic shock which can come because of the erythrotoxins. Okay, so what are some of the specimens during investigations that can be taken when one has human anthrax, as any type of anthrax? So there is cutaneous anthrax. So in cutaneous anthrax, you can take skin biopsy to test for cutaneous anthrax. In intestinal anthrax, you can do stool sample or you can do blood vein punctures or smear examination in order to isolate the bacteria. You can also do bacilli peritoneal fluid for culture, okay, for culture and sensitivity to identify the bacteria. There is also pulmonary anthrax here. In pulmonary anthrax, you can do sputum, okay, and serum samples to come up with diagnosis. Then you can do X-rays to detect inhalation anthrax and can also do lumbar puncture to view anthrax meningitis. We said anthrax may affect the meninges, so you can do lumbar puncture to rule anthrax meningitis. Okay, so health education. Health education, let's say for people with occupation at risk, laboratory professionals need to wear personal protective equipment to protect themselves. People who handle animal products need to ensure that they do not open cuts where infection can easily get entry or areas which can be port of entry. No handlers or postal workers, as they move from one area to the other, also are at risk of this infection. Military personnel, most of the time they work in these bushes, okay, these areas where the spores are mostly available because we say anthrax is soil borne, so it's found in the soil. Okay, so emergency response workers, as they attend to people lifting from the ground and the likes, they are also exposing themselves. Travelers, okay, so you can avoid traveling to areas of high risk, or traveling may make you easily catch infection because you might not know or realize that in that area there is infection. Health personnel are at risk because they will need to handle these patients with infection. So they should be provided with the protective clothing, masks, gloves, and also overalls, okay, so that they can wear those coats, wear the coats like. How can we treat anthrax? There is a cocktail of antibiotics that can be treated. So some of the choices that can be used in treating anthrax include ciprofloxacin, ciproflo, ciprofloxacin 500 milligrams BD. Okay, that is the oral drugs. Okay, then levofloxacin 500 milligrams orally, it is given OD doxycycline. So even amoxicillin are some of the antibiotics that can be used in treating anthrax. Ciprofloxacin, levofloxacin, doxycycline, or amoxicillin. Then inhalational anthrax antibiotics with the bactericidal activity that can be used here is ciprofloxacin. Now for IV, that is 400 milligrams. Then levofloxacin, 750 milligrams. Epinem, Emipinem, that is 1 gram YAD. Vancomycin, ampicillin, or penicillin G omega can be given. Of course, because of the inflammation, fever, and the likes, you also need to add an antipyretic drugs like paracetamol. Okay, so thanks for listening. For you to understand well this infection of anthrax, you need to know that we have different shapes of bacteria. To appreciate shapes of bacteria that we have, and you need to know that they are also gram positive and gram negative bacteria, and anthrax is a gram positive. So you need to appreciate the characteristic of the bacteria. Then you would know more and explain what is needed in the pathogenesis, what is needed in the prevention of the infection. Okay, so this is what we can discuss for now about anthrax. Please go through the shapes, know the structure of the bacteria, okay, know drugs that are given within anthrax. Okay, so from me, I'm saying thank you for listening and keep studying.